Hello, everyone. Let us continue our discussion on OSH or OSH, Occupational Safety and Health. So, here's the outline of our presentation. We will now talk about fire hazards in the workplace. We will be tackling fire prevention measures, emergency evacuation procedures, emergency response planning, fire detection and suppression systems, and training and education. Especially today, March is Fire Prevention Month. When we say fire hazards, no, these are conditions or materials that increase the likelihood of a fire occurring in the workplace. Okay, these hazards can include combustible materials, electrical faults, hot work processes, and improper storage of flammable substances. So that's the definition of fire hazards. These are again conditions or materials that increase the likelihood of a fire occurring in the workplace. Okay? So ano ba itong common types of fire hazards na ito? Combustible materials. For example, papel, wood, plastic that can easily ignite and fuel a fire. So that's the first one. The next one is electrical faults. Malfunctioning equipment, overloaded circuits, and damaged wiring can spark fires. No? Hot work process, welding, soldering, cutting, grinding operations that produce fire, no? Can ignite and explode under certain conditions. Flammable liquids and gases, di ba? Petroleum products, solvents, and compressed gases that can ignite again and explode under certain conditions. And last one is ignition sources, cigarettes, open flames, heat producing equipment, and electrical appliances that can start fires if not used or maintained properly. So those are the common types of fire hazards in various workplace. No? Again, we have the combustible materials, electrical faults, hot work processes, flammable liquids and gases, and ignition sources. Okay? Ano ba ang potential risks na associated sa fire hazards? Una, property damage. No? Fires can cause extensive damage to buildings. Totoo naman, di ba? Sabi nga nila, di baling tawag dito, di baling ng manakawan, wag lang masunugan, di ba? Kasi pagka nasunugan ka, wala ka nang maano makasave ng mga gamit mo di ba? Fire can cause damage to buildings, equipment, inventory, and other assets, resulting to financial losses and operational disruptions. When we see operational disruptions sa mga businesses naman to, for example, mga textile companies, di ba? Pag nasunog yon, patay ang kanilang operation, di ba? Injury or loss of life. Fires pose a risk to the safety and well-being of employees, customers, and visitors, leading to injuries, fatalities, and long-term health effects. So, dito sa injury or loss of life, di ba? Pag may na-trap na employee doon sa isang company, na-trap na, customers sa iyong business, no? It may lead to injuries, and it may also cause life na fatalities. Pwede rin naman, pwede kang ma-suffocate, di ba? Nabuhay ka nga, meron ka naman na-inhale na toxic gases during fire, na-trap ka, no? It will cause a long-term health effects. The third one is environmental impact. Fires can release toxic smoke, hazardous chemicals, and pollutants into the air, soil, and water, posing risks to human health and environment. So yes, alam nyo naman, pag may sunog, may itim na usok. No? These are toxic smokes. No? And it produces pollutants into the air. No? Pwede rin naman yung mga ashes, yung mga abo na dadampi sa tubig, sa lupa, no? It can also cause risks to human health. The next one is legal and regulatory compliance. Failure to address fire hazards and implement preventive measures can result in fines, penalties, lawsuits, and regulatory enforcement actions. Fire prevention measures. Huh? We have here the guidelines for preventing fires in the workplace, importance of fire prevention strategies, and examples of fire prevention measures. When we see guidelines, no, again, dito yung mga standards and regulations na dapat nating sundin to prevent fires in the workplace. Una-una, implement a comprehensive fire prevention program that includes identifying and addressing potential fire hazards, conducting regular inspections, and enforcing safety policies and procedures. Dito sa LGU sa amin sa Palayan City, pagpasok pa lang ng March, no, meron ng parade or motorcade yung BFP, DRRM, and other concerned agencies na sinasabi to this month is fire prevention month. Dapat aware tayo sa mga possible na pwedeng mangyari when it comes to fire. Yan, meron silang fire prevention program tinatawag. And also they have these training employees on fire safety practices, emergency procedures, and the proper use of firefighting equipment. So sa pagkakaalam ko, yung Bureau of Fire, yung BFP, nagkakandak sila ng community-based or barangay-based na mga training, no? Sa sa pagpatay ng sunog, sa paggamit ng fire extinguisher. Yon. Maintain a clean and organized work environment to reduce the accumulation of combustible materials and eliminate ignition sources. So sa amin naman, to maintain a clean and organized work, syempre, yung mga combustible materials na mga basura, kinukuha naman kaagad nung sa enro namin. Para nga nang sa ganun is maiwasan yung maipon yung mga combustible materials and mai-dispose kaagad. And regularly inspect and maintain electrical systems, equipment, and machinery to prevent electrical faults and malfunctions. So, kakandak tayo ng inspection sa ating mga computers, sa ating mga electrical wiring, sa ating mga routers to prevent electrical faults and malfunctions. No? The fifth one is store flammable materials properly in designated areas away from ignition sources and heat producing equipment. So siguro yung nasa field ng welding, ba, hot work process, ilayo nila yung mga flammable materials sa kanilang ginagawa o sa kanilang workplace. Kasi pag nag-spark at tumalsik dun sa, for example, saan ba pwedeng tumalsik yun? Sa mga generators, sa mga combustible materials, pwede mag-spark and pwede mag-produce ng apoy. Okay? So those are the guidelines that we have to always keep in mind to prevent fires in the workplace. So ano bang importance ng fire prevention strategies and practices? Una, these are essential for reducing the risk of fires and minimizing the potential for property damage, injuries, and fatalities in the workplace. Napaka-common naman yan. Okay? Kailangan nating malaman itong strategies na to para mabawasan yung risk ng sunog, mabawasan yung potential property damage and injuries sa workplace. Proactive measures such as identifying and addressing fire hazards, implementing safety protocols, and providing employee training can help prevent fires from occurring and ensure a safe work environment. So, next one is, ano ba itong mga examples ng fire prevention measures na to? Una-una, proper housekeeping. Make sure malinis ang ating work areas, organized, and free from clutter. To reduce the risk of fires caused by combustible materials and debris. Okay? Kailangan malinis yung ating workplace. Next one is storage of flammable materials. So, sa workplace natin, yung mga spray, yung mga alcohol, yan, nagkokos kasi ng apoy yan, di ba? Make sure na naka-store yung mga liquids na yan and gases na yan sa mga containers and cabinets. Malayo sa heat sources and ignition points. Okay? Last one is maintenance of fire detection and suppression systems. You also have to inspect, test, and maintain fire alarms, smoke detectors, sprinkler systems, and fire extinguishers to ensure they are operational and effective in case of fire emergency. Alam naman itong mga excuse me, sprinkler na to, medyo makita dito sa mga mall, di ba? Sa SM, meron yung mga sprinklers yan. Sa mga high-rise building, meron din yan mga yan. So those are the examples of fire preventive measures, no? Proper housekeeping, storage of flammable materials, and maintenance of fire detection and suppression systems. Emergency evacuation procedures. So we have here three components, no? First one is procedures for safe and orderly evacuation in the event of fire. Okay? Ano ba ang dapat nating gawin? Di ba? For safe and orderly evacuation during fire. Unang-una, activate the fire alarm system to alert occupants of the building. Di ba? Meron tayong pinipress minsan sa mga kung may makikita kayo sa isang wall na kulay red, siyempre, i-activate natin yung fire alarm na yun para maging alert yung mga tao na nasa building. Second one is evacuate the building using designated evacuation routes and assembly points. So, meron tayong mga fire exits na tinatawag, di ba? Doon tayo dadaan, syempre, in case of fire. Assist individuals with disabilities or mobility impairments in evacuating the building. Syempre, tutulungan natin sila, yung hindi makalakad na maayos, yung merong disability sa katawan. We have to help them, assist them in evacuating the building. Do not use elevators during fire. Siyempre, kung masunog yung kuryente, di ba? Biglang makat yung linya, dinatrap ka sa loob. And report to designated personnel for accountability and further instructions. So, when it comes to disasters, no? And mga risk na ganito, katulad ng fire, usually ang in charge dyan yung DRRM, Disaster Risk Reduction Management, and chaired by the city mayor, of course. So those are some of the procedures for safe and orderly evacuation in the event of fire. Depende yan sa procedure na meron sa emergency response plan ng inyong DRRM. But basically, ito ang common procedures during fire, no? Activate the fire alarm, evacuate the building, assist PWD individuals, do not use elevators, and report to designated personnel. Okay? So ano bang importance ng mga drills and training? These emergency evacuation drills, no, help familiarize employees with evacuation procedures, routes, and assembly points, ensuring a prompt and orderly response in the event of fire. Training also prepares employees to recognize fire hazards, respond effectively to fire emergencies, and assist others in evacuating safely, reducing the risk of injuries and fatalities. Ito kasi mga drills na to, it helps us, employees, familiarize with evacuation procedures, di ba? Kung saan ba dapat tayo dadaan, kung saan ba tayo pupunta. At the same time, ensuring a prompt and orderly response in the event of fire. Diba? Kaya sa amin, I think quarterly meron kaming earthquake drill. I think kasi part of mandatory yata kasi yon sa mga DRRM yung conduct of fire earthquake drill. I don't know sa fire kung paano ang procedure naman during fire. 'Di ba? Training prepares employees to recognize fire hazards. Yes. Ito ang concern naman ito yung sa BFP naman. 'Di ba? What are the examples of evacuation routes, assembly points, and designated personnel responsible for coordinating evacuations? So dito naman, sa evacuation routes na to, minsan may nilalagay tayo. Ito, unang-una yung fire exit. Alam naman natin, may mga markings yan. And yung mga routes naman natin, it must be clear and free from obstruction. Baka natatakpan yung mga markings mo dyan eh. Hindi ito makikita ng mga tao. Make sure yung markings mo is free from obstruction and also with multiple exits to facilitate quick and efficient evacuation. Okay? Assembly points are designated outdoor locations where occupants gather, after evacuating the building to ensure accountability and facilitate communication with emergency responders. Basically, ang ating assembly points, yung mga open areas yan. Okay? Alam naman natin yun, usually yun ang ating assembly points during disasters. And designated personnel, for example, mga fire wardens, mga department heads, they will be conducting headcounts and communications with emergency responders during evacuation. So those are the emergency evacuation procedures that we have to understand and comprehend. No? So emergency response planning, the sixth slide of 8. No? Ano bang importance ng emergency response planning, especially in fire incidents? Okay? Emergency response planning is essential. Why? For it is effectively managing fire incidents that could minimize property damage, ensure the safety of occupants in the event of a fire emergency. A well-developed emergency response plan helps organizations respond accordingly, promptly, and efficiently to fire emergencies, coordinate with emergency responders, and mitigate the impact of fires on personnel and property. So those are the most important reasons why emergency response planning is needed, especially in managing fire incidents. Unang-una, reduce or minimize property damage. Okay? We can also manage fire incidents and ensure the safety of occupants in the event of fire and emergency. Ano ba itong components ng effective emergency response plan? Unang-una, roles and responsibilities. We have defined the roles and responsibilities for key personnel, including emergency coordinators, fire wardens, first aid responders, and evacuation coordinators. Sa pagkakaalam ko, ah, meron tayong fire wardens, unang-una mga BFP, di ba? Sila yung mga nagpapatay ng sunog. Second one is first aid responders. Ito yung mga rescue natin, no? Sila yung nagpo-provide ng first aid responses, di ba? Sila yung kung meron kang sugat, kung nasunugan ka, di ba, bibigay ka nilang first aid. And evacuation coordinators naman, as far as I know, ito yung naman yung mga social workers natin na yung nasa DSWD. Sila yung nag-accommodate sa'yo sa evacuation areas natin. Okay? Communication protocols, establish a communication channels and procedures for notifying occupants, emergency responders, and the relevant stakeholders in the event of fire emergency. Sa DRM kasi namin, meron silang mga tawag dito, merong mga locations wherein nandun nakapost yung emergency hotlines nila, yung number. Not only, hindi lang yung DRM namin, but pati yung fire, PNP, yan. Nakalagay sa plaza yata namin yung tarpaulin na yun eh. Yun yung emergency contacts natin and communication protocols, no? For example, may sunog, tatawagan natin yung BFP, di ba? Tawagan natin yung DRRM, yun. Emergency contacts, ito, maintain a list of emergency contacts including local fire departments, ng BFP natin, emergency medical services, and utility providers for requesting assistance during fire emergencies. So, examples of emergency response procedures such as fire alarm activation. So basically, itong mga establishments natin, yung malalaking establishments natin, mga malls, mga hospitals, meron niyang mga fire alarm systems, okay? So it is part of an emergency response procedure yung pag-activate ng fire alarm. No, in the event of fire emergency, i-activate mo lang 'yon. Ipo-pull down mo lang 'yon, 'di ba? Halimbawa, sinasabi pa nga iba, break the glass. Na break the glass if there's an emergency, gano'n, 'di ba? Pag pinul mo yung alarm, pwedeng ma-alert yung occupants natin and we can now start our evacuation procedures. The same time, after ng fire alarm activation mo, tumawag ka na sa mga emergency responders mo, 'di ba? For example, yung BFP, yung building official, ah, yung mga naka-post na mga emergency hotlines nila, yun ang tawagan natin. Those are the appropriate those numbers, no? Those are the appropriate emergency numbers and providing relevant information about the location and severity of fire. For example, may sunog sa kanto, siyempre tawagan mo yung hotline and then assist them kung saan bang gawin may sunog, di ba? The third one is evacuation. Direct occupants to evacuate the building using designated evacuation routes and assembly points. Again, usually itong assembly points na to, open area to, no? Also, yung inyong evacuation routes, make sure yung mga markings mo kung saan sila dadaan is walang obstruction para nakikita at nababasa nila kaagad. So, those are the emergency response planning na kailangan natin gawin. Again, this depends on your DRRM or BFP kung paano yung response plan nila during emergency, especially during the event of fire. Okay? Fire detection and suppression systems. When we say fire detection and suppression systems, ito yung sinosuppress kaagad nila yung apoy. For example, smoke detectors. Yan. Meron pa lang silang smoke particle na nadetect yung smoke detector mo, bigla ka agad yung sprinkler, di ba? Bigla ka agad mag-on yan. Or kung hindi man magbigay ng tubig, bigla lang mag-alarm, di ba? Pwedeng for example, matagal na tunog na warning, di ba? Sasabihin, it alerts occupants for a potential fire, di ba? That's the role of smoke detectors. Yung isa naman, heat detectors. Changes in temperature such as rapid increase in heat indicating the presence of fire. Ito naman, pagka lumala na from smoke, naging heat na, uminit na, tumaas na temperature, saka pa lang pwede siguro mag-on yung fire sprinklers natin. Di ba? And last is flame detectors. Detect the presence of flames or infrared radiation emitted by fires, providing early warning of fire incidents. So, meron tayong iba't ibang suppression systems. Unang-una, smoke detectors, heat detectors, and flame detectors. Depende yan sa ECE or depende yan sa system or depende yan sa provider kung anong i-install nila na fire suppression and detection system. Okay? Ano naman itong mga fire suppression systems na to, like sprinklers. Yan. Yung fire sprinklers naman, it automatically release water or fire retardant chemicals onto a fire to extinguish flames and suppress heat. Yung fire extinguisher naman, it is a portable device filled with fire suppressing agents such as water, foam, dry chemicals, carbon dioxide. Alam na alam naman natin itong fire extinguisher na to, di ba? Fire suppression agents, specialized chemicals, gas, or foams designed to suppress fires by removing heat, oxygen, or fuel from the fire triangle, extinguishing flames and preventing reignition. Ano bang importance? No. Ano bang importance ng mga to? Una, and paano ba natin mami-maintain tong mga system na to? Una, regular inspection. Baka may mga bara na yan. Kaya hindi na makapag-release ng tubig. Make sure gumagana itong mga linya ng tubig na to. No? Inspection, testing, and maintenance of fire detection and suppression systems are critical for ensuring the proper functioning and reliability in detecting and suppressing fires. We can conduct scheduled inspections din naman, no? And maintenance activities help identify and address issues such as faulty equipment. For example, kinakalawang na yung linya ng tubig mo, diba? Sa sprinkler mo, diba? Yung mga obstructed sensors, yung mga damaged components. So make sure that we conduct regular inspections sa ating mga suppression systems and fire detection systems. Okay? So the last slide is about training and education. Ano ba ang importance ng fire safety training? Una, pag meron tayong training, we have now the understanding of fire hazards. We can now how we can prevent the occurrence of fire, diba? We were now able to know the emergency procedures during fire, di ba? And the proper use of firefighting equipment, kung paano ba gumamit ng fire extinguisher. So yun ang importance ng fire safety training. It also empowers employees to recognize the potential fire hazards, respond effectively to fire emergencies, and evacuate safely, reducing the risk of injuries, fatalities, and property damage. Ano naman ba ang dapat i-cover natin sa ating safety training program? Unang-una, fire hazard. Identifying common fire hazards in the workplace such as combustible materials, electrical faults, and ignition sources. Next one is preventive measures. We have to study the guidelines for preventing fires through proper housekeeping, diba? Storage of flammable materials, and maintenance of fire detection and suppression systems. Next one is emergency evacuation procedures. Procedures for evacuating the building safely in the event of fire, including evacuation routes, assembly points, and designated personnel responsible for coordinating evacuations. The last one is fire extinguisher use. Ito, kasama naman ito sa fire hazards, no? Sa pag-aaral natin ito. Usually, ang nagkakantak nito is BFP, no? Training on the types of fire extinguishers and their proper use and techniques for extinguishing small fires safely and effectively. So those are the topics that we have to cover in during fire safety training programs. Fire hazards, number one. No? Number two is prevention measures. And last one is emergency evacuation procedures. Last one is the strategies for promoting a culture of fire safety awareness and preparedness in the workplace. Una, establish a fire safety committee or team responsible for developing, implementing, and monitoring of fire safety programs and initiatives. Basically, alam naman natin to, BFP and DRRM. These are the concerned teams or organizations responsible for strategies of, promoting culture of fire safety awareness. Conduct regular fire drills and emergency evacuation exercises to practice emergency procedures. Ito usually meron naman din tayong training nito, but sa amin kasi puro earthquake drill naman, no? Hindi lang natin alam kung paano sa may fire. Provide ongoing fire safety training and education to employees, supervisors, and managers to reinforce awareness and promote a proactive approach to fire safety. And last is encourage employees to report fire hazards, no? Near misses and safety concerns, and recognize and reward contributions to fire safety and emergency preparedness efforts. So those are the training and education that we need in order for us to be equipped with enough knowledge when it comes to fire safety. No? So that ends my presentation about fire hazards, no? Under the occupational safety and health subject. Thank you guys for listening and see you next week.